TechnoCommunism show. I had a call from my grandmother the other day, still living, amazingly, and she says, I thought somebody called me from your area, so I thought I would call you and see what's going on, but it wasn't me who called her. And it's not that I wouldn't like to talk to people like this. Unfortunately, everyone I've ever had like this in my life is some kind of hardline fascist or fascist sympathizer of almost equal egregiousness. And she said, we only talk for a few minutes. I try to be cordial to people in these situations, but she said, don't forget about your family, something like that, as if I wouldn't like to do that if my family weren't all Christian fascists or fascist sympathizers. There was a time in my life where, it's still that time really, where I would have liked to have had support of people like this many times. But what have people like this done from the earliest memory, and in every situation like that since, is just say some Christian fascist bullshit and then proceed to fuck things up. That's, if you just look up the dictionary definition of European American, that's what you're going to see. The natural bungler. This is not idle speculation, right? Okay, so you live in a fascist country today. That could be better, right? In the 400 years that this sick experiment's been going on, just in living memory, 40 million people were killed in actual anti-communist wars, not even including the number of other ways that you fucked up and got people killed in living memory. In this 400-year span, how many hundreds of millions of black and brown lives cut short? How many other millions of citizens of Earth's lives were cut short because of these actions? Well, that's pretty bad, right? But wait, there's more. It's worse than that, because planet's dying because of this European and European American supremacy, right? We let these people more or less dominate economic systems, and the result is now we're in capitalism's climate apocalypse, a death spiral that's likely to kill much of multicellular life on Earth, likely to kill all of humankind in the next 4 or 5 decades. And there's not a single person outside of a few Marxists who I've met who acknowledges any of this. And my grandmother is somebody who upholds it actively. All of my grandparents were people like this. Almost all of my family members. There's a few people, rare exceptions, and people that I've known, family members and such, that don't fit that description. Very, very few. I said last time I was going to talk about Jaron Lanier's concerns. Here's a few key points from Claude on an article about Jaron Lanier and his concerns about the tech accelerationist milieu in which we currently exist. I'm a Marxist tech accelerationist, so I'd like to see that turned into something sustainable and humane. That's not going to happen probably as long as the United States and the fascist West continue to exist. Here are a few key points from that article from Claude. Jaron Lanier is a pioneer in virtual reality. He works at Microsoft, red flag, in the ethics of AI, red flag. Tech ethicists are generally just people that work for a highly fascistic organization. And some of my previous criticisms of this person have been that, but he also touches upon a few things that are legitimately concerning. He warns that advanced AI without considering human dignity. That's a red flag, right? Not material conditions. Not the billion people on this planet who are born and never have proper food or water, and then they die some short years later. This is because of the actions of the fascist West. that these underclasses are oppressed and continue to exist in this form instead of flourishing. But he doesn't say that. He says human dignity. So he's talking, if you scroll through these AI bobbleheads, one of the major recurring themes is that AI bobblehead adjacent people, techies and programmers, are not going to be making a good living, or they're going to lose their jobs, right? But they don't really talk about how they are in the 20% of Americans that tend to earn a living that would allow them to be stably housed and raise a family and do things with dignity, so to speak. They don't talk about that, right? They don't talk about those other 80% of people. They just give you some entitled bullshit about how techies could be in trouble if we're not careful. Not how everybody else is already living that way. And Jaron Lanier is no exception. He's a mega millionaire. He's a multi-millionaire, let's say. Lanier argues that we need to make sure AI respects human autonomy, agency, and dignity. He says if AI is designed to manipulate people for a profit, it could undermine democracy and human rights. But he works for one of the big companies that's done nothing but this. And you really won't find a big tech company that's not implicated in this. They're essentially all military contractors, people that work closely with this fascistic set of systems, and so you're talking about people who are already a party to surveillance state, manipulations on that order of magnitude, emerging techno-fascism run by the fascist USA. And almost all of these people function in the same way as Jaron Lanier, raising a stop clock phenomenon, raising 2 or 3 good points, but basically, in the aggregate, these people upholding this fascist system. He advocates for developing AI ethics standards and regulations to prevent abusive applications. Lanier thinks AI should empower people and allow human flourishing, not just to chase technological progress. That's a little, the ways that he just tends to describe these things in red mode are themselves a little vague. He is engaging policymakers to incorporate ethical AI practices into laws and regulations. And then this is one of the central problems of the 21st century, right? We're building systems that are well beyond the systems of the past that have themselves been micromanaged by techno-fascists, rudimentary techno-fascists, industrial techno-fascists. But now we're in the era of super intelligent techno-fascists, and there's not a solution for this from regulating this within the fascist USA, right? The solution is that all of these people's heads need to be on fucking pikes. That's the thing that stops you from being immortally enslaved by super intelligent techno-fascists. And you've maybe got about 10 years to get on top of that before there's just no stopping them, right? Overall, Lanier urges the AI field to slow down and consider the deep implications of the technology on humanity before charging ahead. In summary, the article covers his warnings that advancing AI without human dignity, material conditions, actually talk about material conditions, you fuck, as a central principle could have negative societal impacts, and highlights his calls for ethical guidelines. I thought I would look at another article here. This is, I asked Claude, turn 2 synopses of different articles into a speech I can read with a Marxist critique of the articles. So I'll just read that for you verbatim. Now, the other article is about the cult of AI accelerationism that's taking over Silicon Valley. And it is a cult, and I've known people like this, and the problem of them being cult-like is not a problem. The problem, it is a problem in this context, but the problem is that they're techno-fascists, and they're all completely insane. You will not find a tech person who is not basically completely insane. And the ones that I was interacting with, the hangers-on of techno-fascism, my God, they should all just be drinking pudding through a straw in a rubber broom, right? They're completely insane. The high-functioning ones, they're at some remove from the fray of that. But even there, how are the people that I'm talking about any different from fucking Elon Musk, right? The guy's completely nuts. Um, um, Here's this conversation. Comrades, these two articles about AI techno-fascist cult and about Jaron Lanier criticizing some of this highlight an important debate happening right now about the future of artificial intelligence. On the one side are these techno-fascistic techno-utopians who believe advancing AI as rapidly as possible will solve humanity's problems. On the other are skeptics like Jaron Lanier warning of profound dangers if AI progresses without ethical standards. As Marxists, we must analyze this debate through the lens of class interests. Whose interests are truly being served by unchecked AI development? Clearly not the working class, who will be most vulnerable to displacement and manipulation. No, it is the capitalist elite who fund and profit from these technologies. So-called effective accelerationism, with its reckless faith in AI's benevolence, is an ideological smokescreen. Its naive optimism masks the profit-driven agendas of tech executives drunk on visions of efficiency and control. They plan to monitor, nudge, and experiment on human beings in ways no bourgeois bureaucracy could imagine. Yes, and so this, just as the cult-like aspect is not really the problematic thing here, the bureaucracy, the monitoring, and control and efficiency are not the problem. Capitalism and fascistic institutions, beliefs, and byways are the problem. But comrades, we cannot allow them to wield this power. We cannot let them play God while the masses suffer the consequences. AI must serve human needs, not exploit them. Its awesome capabilities should liberate working people, not oppress them. This is not romantic Luddism. Technology itself is not the enemy, but under capitalism it becomes a weapon in class war, and we must intervene and regulate before it's too late. Yes, and that's talking about a demonic deity in the form of techno-fascistic run superintelligence, a literal fucking deity for all intents and purposes, from which you will not be able to escape in a short period of years. And most tech people believe in this. Most of them are not Marxist tech accelerationists. 1 in 1,000 of them is not somebody who should be in a gulag. Okay, and unfortunately, these are the people who control the economic system that dominates world affairs. On the other hand, people like this, fascists and European Americans who are almost universally fascist, Europeans and European Americans who are almost universally fascist sympathetic, these so-called citizens of the imperial core. It's not just light-skinned people of this description, right? Japan is a techno-fascist place as well. There's others, but it basically is, fucking white people. These people make up 10% of the world's population. So there's that, right? And there's hope in those other folks coming together and trying to use these things in more sensible ways, as maybe suggested by the expansion of BRICS. It's not a perfect undertaking, but it does suggest that these other 7 billion people on the earth might have something to say about a techno-fascist noose being dropped around all of our necks. We must intervene and regulate before it's too late. AI must enhance human dignity, or we will surely see a dystopia. You're goddamn right. Consider the choice is clear. Will AI usher in fully automated luxury communism, the real thing, not the thing that FALC people and the author of that book are advocating for, which is basically completely passive, is the essential problem there. They're not advocating for revolutionary action. They're advocating for you to sit back and allow the neoliberal systemated luxury communism for you, which is, of course, something that they've never done, right? The professional managerial class that emerged in the 20th century, the industrialists of the decades prior, they all automated a lot of sectors. Yeah, if that were fundamentally true, that they would have helped people, they would have helped people in those times. But what happened was efficiency improved, and the only people that benefited from that were the ruling elites and their short list of lackeys, and everyone else's lives basically stayed the same or got worse. You don't have tens of millions of people dying of a preventable condition in that world, the world that these FALC hucksters describe. That if you sit back and let the neoliberal masters do what they want to do, that will soon have fully automated luxury communism. If there were a kernel of truth in that, you wouldn't see those people contributing to genocide and human immiseration today, right? They would already be doing those good things if they were capable of that. They're not. Will we see FALC, or will this metastasize into the horrors of surveillance capitalism? Yes, that's what's going to happen. The debate is open, and a Marxist voice is needed now more than ever. Most Marxists don't even think about artificial intelligence. Never mind that computing systems have already transformed life on Earth to something almost unrecognizable from what would exist in centuries before that. Never mind that all serious social experiments along these lines, socialist projects along these lines, like the USSR or China or others, their serious intelligentsia talk about this all the time. But ordinary Marxists and or even non-aligned leftists, who are basically all liberals, or other anti-establishment people, who are basically all capitalist pigs if they're not Marxists, none of those people talk about the ideas that are mostly discussed on this show under the umbrella of techno-communism. These will be the deciding factors in a 21st century that is survivable or not, and yet they're almost never discussed. So Claude finishes with, "We have nothing to lose but our chains and a world to code," which, despite the awkwardness, I agree with the sentiment.